everyone, welcome to Deepika Makeup. Hope you all are doing super awesome. In this video, I'm going to briefly talk about all my makeup palettes. So in this video, I'm only going to talk about the big to medium size palettes, and in another video, I'm going to talk about little palettes and also single eyeshadows I have. So let's tackle this situation. It's bad. So let's do it. And also be prepared to watch a long video because I have a ton of palettes. Even though I talk about each palette for 30 seconds, it's still going to be a long video. So just be prepared.
Oh my god, you guys, this is my palette situation. And these are just like the big to medium size palettes. I have a ton of more singles and small palettes which I'm going to talk about in another video. But let's tackle this horrible situation.
Okay, the first one I have here are some BH Cosmetics palettes. The first one I have here is the BH Cosmetics. This is the Pop Art palette. I really like this palette. It has some beautiful colors that whenever I want to reach for colors, this is what I go for. But I'm going to declutter this one because they came out with a new palette called Weekend Festival palette that I'm eyeing on. The formula looks much better than this one, so I'm decluttering this one, but I'm going to get that palette. And the next one I have here is the Solar Flare palette. You guys, this palette is just amazing. I didn't expect this palette to be so good. It looks like this. This is from their Galaxy collection, and these are all baked eyeshadows. None of these are shimmery, but these are all hues of gold, a little bit of purple and pink as well. And the quality is amazing in this palette. The shadows swatch beautifully. For a baked eyeshadow, you do not have to wet your brush or anything. So I just love this palette. I'm going to keep this, and it's a new palette. I only used it for one time, so yeah. Then I have the Kali Bible palette. This is like her new version, I guess. So that is how it looks, and those are all the eyeshadows. It has beautiful rose tone neutral eyeshadows. I love the highlighters. All these highlighters are beautiful, except I don't reach for this white one, but all the highlighters are so pigmented. Yeah, these are really pigmented highlighters. Can you see that? That was a very light swatch. Even the eyeshadows are beautiful, the mattes are beautiful. So I just love this palette, so I'm going to keep this. And this is quite a new purchase to my collection. Okay, moving on, I have one palette from Colourpop. This is the limited edition Femme Rose palette. I fell in love with this palette, and that is how the packaging looks like. And those are all the shadows, again browns and rosy, purpley rosy colors. And it's a very unique palette to my collection. I absolutely love it, and I made a huge dent in this shadow as well. So I use this non-stop, but I forcibly stopped using it because all my palettes are getting neglected, so that's the reason. So I'm going to keep this. And even though Colourpop comes with so many eyeshadow palettes, I somehow don't fall for them, and this is the only palette I really like out of their entire collection. So yeah, the next ones I have here, let's talk about Kat Von D. The only palette I have from Kat Von D is the Shade and Light eye palette, and this is their all matte eyeshadow palette. I really like this. I reach out to this palette a lot, especially when I'm working with single eyeshadows, and also when I travel to India. I took this palette and also 2 or 3 Colourpop eyeshadows, and I was good to go. So I really like it. I don't really reach out to this part of the palette as much, except the black one, because these are all cool tone neutral eyeshadows that don't look good on me. But then I use this side the most. These two kind of get neglected, but yeah, I'm going to keep this palette, and the quality is also really good. Okay, moving on, I have one palette from It Cosmetics, and this is their Naturally Pretty palette. This is their first palette. Really like the packaging, and I used this a few times. I really like the quality of the eyeshadows, but then again it has a lot of cool tones in it. They all blend out to be very similar on my eyes, so I'm going to declutter this palette. I used it a few times, maybe like 4 or 5 times, and ended up not liking it. I mean, I reach out to these colors, but then still these are like too light for my skin color. So yeah, this is the all matte palette, which is one of the good things. All matte, but then you have this big shimmery transforming shade, and if you put it on top of any matte eyeshadow, it turns into, like, you know, kind of pearlized. So I'm going to declutter this palette. I don't use it as much. I have a few eyeshadows from Makeup Forever. Most of them are singles, but then this is the only palette I have from Makeup Forever, and this is still on sale if you want to pick up. I haven't even touched it, so I'm gonna use this palette. So this is the Makeup Forever. They're very famous artist eyeshadows. I love the formula of these eyeshadows, and it comes with 9 shades, and I really like the colors here. So I'm going to put this palette to use and then decide if I want to keep it or not. I actually got this and then I immediately went to India and I completely forgot about this palette, so keeping that. The next one I have here is a Sigma palette, and this is their Dare palette, and back then this palette was such a rage because the palette is actually very different. Back then, you know, these eyeshadows were unique, but right now these eyeshadows are a trend. So I have these colors in other palettes except this yellow color. This one I have all these shades in other palettes, and I don't reach out to this palette as much. So the brush is also still here, and I'm going to declutter this one. So if I find any new palettes in this journey, I'm going to give away to you guys. I'm posting giveaways every single week on my Instagram. If you are interested to check out, check my Instagram. It's deepikamakeup. I'll put my name right here. So every Thursday I post a new giveaway. So if I'm finding any new and interesting products, I'm actually giving them away to you guys on Instagram, and some of them I'm actually listing on my Poshmark if you're interested to purchase. I'll leave my link to my closet in the description box below, so if you're interested to purchase, you can download the app. And then the next one I have here is by Balm. This is the only palette I have from Balm. This is their very famous Nude Tude palette, and I used it quite a few times. I like it, but this is again a very simple palette to my collection. I have all these eyeshadows in my collection, so I am actually going to declutter this one. Yeah, I don't reach to this palette as much, and people don't even talk about that palette as much these days, you guys. It's been a very long time that I heard somebody feature that palette. So the next one I have here is by Makeup Addiction Cosmetics, and this is their Meadow palette. I picked it up from the makeup show, and this is actually a recent purchase. I'm going to keep this, and look at the colors, so unique. This 3 shades I will have somewhere in my collection. The rest of the shades are very, very unique to my collection, and I can pop out the shadows and put them in my Z palette if I want to pair with other eyeshadows. So I'm definitely going to keep this one. Okay, the next one I have here is by Pure. This is a new palette to my collection. I'm in love with this palette, and this is the palette that is sitting on my vanity every single day. I'm going to keep this. Such a unique, such a beautiful quality eyeshadow palette. You just have to go and swatch yourself to know how amazing these shadows are. Very smooth, highly pigmented, and they work beautifully on the skin. So that's the palette. Pretty neutral, but I have some pinks and purples here to play around, so I really like it. This is the Pure Visionary palette. You can get this from Ulta. I will leave the links to all these palettes in the description box below for you guys. The next one I have here is a very famous Color Drain Queen of Hearts palette. Again, a new palette to my collection. I'm definitely going to keep it. I heard that this palette was out of stock for many months, and it recently came back in stock. This is a pretty expensive palette. I feel like it's $50, but then The colors are so unique, very beautiful. They swatch beautifully. I swatched most of these palettes. I have swatches on my Instagram if you want to check out, except this shade, which is the most beautiful shade in the palette. All the other shades swatch beautifully, but this shade works perfectly when you work with the brush on your eyes. So I don't have any complaints with this palette. Love it, keeping it. Alright, moving on, I have this eyeshadow palette by Art Deco. This is the most wanted eyeshadow palette. This is the rose edition, and that is how the palette looks like. I played around with this palette a couple of times and I don't like the quality of the eyeshadows at all. And these are kind of cool tone eyeshadows except this rose shade. So I'm going to declutter this palette. Honestly, the formula is a joke. It doesn't work at all. It works like kids makeup, so I wouldn't recommend this at all. I think you can find Art Deco makeup products in Canada, and I don't think they are available in US. Okay, let's talk about some Urban Decay palettes. So the first one I have here is this eyeshadow palette. I remember picking this up on a sale or something. I don't remember what the name is, but this has all the very famous Urban Decay eyeshadows in one palette. And I haven't played around with this palette honestly. It looks like I only swatched 1 or 2 shades, but otherwise the rest all is like intact. I'm gonna put this in my maybe pile. You guys, I'm actually going to declutter this one. It's not interesting me at all. The only shade I think I'm gonna use in this palette is Last Call, Chopper, and Sin, but the other shades are not really exciting me as much, so I'm going to declutter this one. Okay, the next one I have here is the Urban Decay Pulp Fiction palette, and I am going to, yeah, this is a neutral eyeshadow palette. I'm going to keep this. I don't think I'm going to reach to this palette as much. This is such a basic palette, like just like the Kat Von D. If I take this palette, I will have to carry 2 or 3 Colourpop or you know, shimmery single eyeshadows, and I'll be good. So I'm going to keep this palette. It has like the basic neutrals for blending, and that's it. So I'm going to keep this, and it's going to be in my maybe pile though, so yeah. Okay, the next one I have here is quite a new purchase. This is the Urban Decay Moon Dust palette. So guys, this is a pretty expensive palette. You get 8 shadows for $50, but the formula is really good. Sometimes in Sephora weekly wows they put this for $24. I've seen that once. So if you want to grab it, look for such sales. And I really like the colors. I'm going to keep this for sure. And my most favorite out of this is Element for sure. And I really wanted Solstice to be in this palette, but no. So I might have to get that as a single eyeshadow. Okay, the next one I have here are 2 Naked palettes. I have Naked 3 and also Naked Heat. I don't have 1, 2, Smoky, yeah, that's it. I don't have the other 3 Naked palettes. So this is the Naked 3 palette with rose tones. Oh my god, I have used this palette so much, you guys. I love this palette, but the thing is I only reach out to the shades that I always use. Like, can you see, like I only dunk into products that I always use. So this was my go-to palette when I was working, because these are like really soft rose tone eyeshadows. They don't look overboard at all. So I mostly use Buzz on a daily basis. This is what used to go all over my eyelid. Sometimes Liar also goes on my eyelid, and I used to use like Dark Horse or something, you know, to blend out the harsh edges, but that's pretty much it. I don't use a lot of eyeshadows in this. So I'm actually going to declutter this palette. I'm pretty sure I have these rose tones in some other palettes or in drugstore. You know, I'll have drugstore options to this. The next one I have here is the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I only played around with this once and I really like this. This is a quite a new purchase to my collection, so I'm going to keep this. I like the deep tone, so I'm mostly going to bring out this palette in fall and winter. Guys, I'm actually doing good. I didn't expect I would declutter this many, but I'm actually doing good. So the next one I have here is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is not the new one. This is her first eyeshadow palette with Morphe, which was limited edition. I really like this palette. I used quite a few times, and I'm definitely going to keep this. This is a very bulky palette for my liking. At some point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to declutter, but for now I think I'm going to enjoy this palette, so I'm going to keep it. Okay, moving on, I have one palette from Juvia's Place, and I also placed order for their Magic palette, which should be in my mailbox today. Definitely going to keep it, and also this one I'm definitely going to keep it. My eyeshadows collection is lacking in some bright colors, and this is the palette that actually fulfills that, so I'm definitely going to keep this. I love the quality of the eyeshadows. Their original palettes are big, and the pans are also really big, so I actually prefer to order their mini sizes. There's only $3 difference between the big one and the small one, but this size seems to be a little more practical than the, their original size. So yeah, next moving on, I have two palettes from Too Faced. Yes, only two palettes. The first one I have here is their this, I don't remember which year this is, but this is their holiday palette. This is a few of my favorite things palette, and even till today I really like this. I put a lot of thought when I was getting it. I mean, this was one of the big purchases I made. Back then I wasn't into buying too much makeup, so this was like a well thought of palette, and I really like it even today. So those are all the shades. It has a good mix of shimmers and also mattes, and also there are beautiful colors in this palette. The dual blue color, which is like glittery, this glittery black one. Oh my god, this palette is amazing. I love it. Along with it, it comes with the bronzer, which is the Chocolate Soleil, very famous. It comes with a Sun Bunny highlighter and two blushes, peach and pink. So what else do you need other than all these to do your makeup, right? So I love this palette, definitely keeping it. Alright, moving on, I have their chocolate bar palette. This is their original one. I haven't tried their semi-chocolate and whatever chocolate palettes they came out with after that. I love this palette. You can just be done with this one palette. I've traveled with this palette many times, and there are a few shades that I religiously use, so there are like good dents made. This one and also these two shades. So I love this palette, and I have done makeup on other people with this palette, and yeah, I like the quality of this eyeshadow palette as well, so I'm definitely going to keep this. Okay, moving on to Lorac palettes. So the first one I have here is their very famous, my all-time favorite palette, the Lorac Pro palette. And yeah, this palette has been beaten up like crazy. This used to sit on the top of my vanity every single day. I kind of just lost it in the back of my collection because I was getting, more and more makeup, but I still like this palette. And yeah, this is like a no-brainer palette for me. Top are all mattes, bottom are all shimmers, all neutral palette. So yeah, I don't have to put a lot of thought into this. It's a very straightforward palette, and I love this. The quality is also amazing, so I'm gonna keep this one. Alright, the other palette from Lorac is their Lorac Pro 2 palette. I still have it in the packaging along with the primer it comes with, and I haven't even took this out of the package. I mean, after I received it, I opened it and saw, and then I was like fully demotivated to use it, so I never opened it. I'm definitely going to declutter. This is the Lorac Pro 2, and that is how it looks. I only ordered this palette because I love the Lorac Pro 1. I thought I liked this as well, but then no. I can use this blue shade, like a few of these shimmers, but the rest of the palette is very light for me. Yeah, this palette is not working, so I'm going to declutter this one. Okay, the next Lorac palette I have here is the unzipped palette, and that is how it looks. I'm going to keep this. I honestly didn't use this palette as much to even think that I like or don't like. So I'm going to keep this palette, and I'm actually going to put this in the maybe pile, use it a couple of times, and then decide if I want to put it back into my collection or not, because back then this palette was very unique because of the rosy shades and all, but right now these shades are in a lot of palettes, so I'm definitely sure I won't miss this palette if I declutter. But I'm going to give this a fair shot. I'm going to try it on a couple of times and then decide. So this goes in my maybe pile, and usually palettes that goes in my maybe pile, I declutter them. So, and the last Lorac palette I have here is this one. I don't know what this is called, not sure of the name, but this palette. It comes with a mini what do you call, shadow primer, and I still have that primer in my collection, never opened it. It comes with 4 eyeshadows, baked eyeshadows. I really like the quality. I tried it on once, but then again, this is a very basic palette. I have all these shades, so I am going to declutter this palette. Yeah, the packaging is also very bulky for 4 eyeshadows, but I really like the quality. Should I put in the maybe pile? Yeah, I'm going to declutter. Yeah. And then I have 2 Inglot palettes. The first one I have here is this one. I have to remove all these labels and clean up this palette, but these are all the shades. I'm going to declutter this palette because again, all neutrals, and yeah, I have all these shades in other palettes. The next one I have here is another Inglot palette that I made myself. This is like the big one, and it's actually fully filled. I'm definitely going to keep it, and these are all like colorful eyeshadows. Maybe a couple here and there are neutrals, like the bottom row, but then the rest are all colorful eyeshadows, and I'm going to keep this. And I completely forgot I made this palette, you guys. I don't know how, but yeah, I was craving for colorful eyeshadows, and I'm glad I found this. Yeah, I hate Inglot palette packaging. Yeah, it's too hard. So it's too hard, too heavy. So yeah, keeping this one. Okay, moving on, I have 4 Anastasia palettes. The first one I have here, and this is the first Anastasia palette I got. This is the Tamanna palette, and I am going to keep it. I use this palette a lot, and I'm going to keep this. I really like the colors. I mean, this is not the best palette, but I kind of like the basic colors it has, so I'm going to keep this. And I wish Anastasia brings out these $28 palettes back, because now their palettes are what, almost $50. Of course, it has more shades. The quality of the eyeshadows is also much better than these palettes, but still $28 with less product or less colors is still fine having so much makeup in my collection. I'm just talking for myself. For regular people, I think this might be too less of a product, but for me, this is a lot. So yeah, another amazing $28 palette from Anastasia is their World Traveler palette. Oh my god, how much I love this palette. The shades are amazing. Such a versatile palette. It has some neutrals, some beautiful colors. I really love this metallic gold shade. It's a very unique gold in my collection, and I like the mattes in here. I love this palette, you guys. I'm definitely going to keep this. I traveled with this palette a couple of times, and just with this little palette, and I enjoyed it so much, so I'm going to keep that one. The next one is the very famous Modern Renaissance palette. I know you all might have seen it. I like this palette, you guys. Yeah, keeping it obviously. And the last one I have here is the Prism palette. Of course, I really like it. I used it a couple of times. I really like the colors. I didn't really play around with this shade. I'm actually curious to what I can do with it. Maybe just do a look with black in this one, but I like this palette, so I'm gonna keep this. And this is quite a new palette to my collection. This is actually a limited edition palette, and right now it's on sale for like $25 or something. So if you want to pick it up, just get it. It's a nice way to try the Anastasia palettes, formula. So that's that. And moving on, I have 3 palettes from Makeup Revolution. I didn't even open these eyeshadows yet, so I'm definitely going to keep this and use it. So this is their Neutrals 2 palette. This is Run Boy Run, which has like neutral shades. This is the Unicorn Unite palette. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this. This is very inexpensive, like $7 or something. You can get this from Ulta for buy one get one half off for the most part, but if you use coupons you can get them for like $4 or $5, which is amazing. So the next one I have here is Tarte. So I only have 2 things from Tarte. The first one I have here is this palette. This is Make Believe in Yourself. This was actually on sale when I got it, and I like the shades in this, especially, it only has one matte eyeshadow, which I don't really enjoy, but then I really like all these metallic shades, so I'm definitely going to keep this palette. And then I have this holiday collection from Tarte. Actually, me and my friend together got it, but I never even opened mine. So this comes with, I think, 2 or 3 boxes of makeup from Tarte. So it comes with this box, and also 3 eyeliners from Tarte, and this Tarte Lights Camera Lashes Mascara, and also this eyeshadow palette, little eyeshadow palette, little eyeshadow palette with 8 eyeshadows from Tarte. Really like the packaging as well, and it also came with some lip colors and everything, but yeah, I don't know where I have. So I'm actually going to declutter the entire thing. I haven't even touched any of this, haven't even opened this one, so decluttering this. And then I found these 4 palettes in my collection. I'm not sure where I got these from, so maybe in swag bags, or I don't know how I got these into my collection. This palette is by Luscious Cosmetics. It's their After Shahzad Master Makeup palette. Wonder where I got this from. I really don't remember, but it has all these eyeshadows and a ton of these blushes and bronzer, a good size mirror. I am not going to use this palette for sure with having so many, so I'm going to give away this palette to you guys on my Instagram, so stay tuned. Then I also have another palette from this Luscious Cosmetics, and again I haven't opened this palette at all, so let's see what this looks like. Yeah, it's an eyeshadow palette. It's called I Love You. How did I get these into my collection? I'm really not sure how I got this, but those are all some neutral eyeshadows, like cool to warm neutral eyeshadows, and I'm going to set this aside for you guys to give away. I don't think I'll use this palette. Okay, another palette that I have here, I'm pretty sure I got this from the Senna Cosmetics the Makeup Show swag bag, and I am again definitely sure I'm not going to use this palette because I have these shades in my collection. This is the 70s palette, so those are all the shades. You can use these as blushes, bronzers, eyeshadows and whatever. So I'm going to declutter this, set this aside for you guys to give away. And finally I have this Julep Neutrals palette, Sweet Eyeshadow palette, and let's see. Oh, this is a little tiny palette, and yeah, I swatched it. Yeah, I swatched this palette, you guys. This has really pretty neutral eyeshadows, but yeah, again I have so many of these, so I'm going to declutter this palette. Yeah, I didn't expect this palette to be this tiny. I don't even remember having this palette, honestly. So you guys, those are all my eyeshadow palettes and it did really good. I didn't expect I would declutter so many. I decluttered 11 palettes. I'm giving away 4 palettes and I do have 2 in the maybe pile. Most probably the maybe pile ones will go away. So I have actually pulled out 17 eyeshadow palettes from my collection. Pat on my back, honestly I did a very good job. So that's all you guys. So please keep an eye on my Instagram, again deepikamakeup. Every Thursday I'm giving away makeup. So if you want to win the 4 palettes along with a lot of other makeup, you guys, I have a big box of makeup and I'm actually picking out like 6 or 7 products and I'm actually putting out a giveaway, and you know I can give the entire box at one time, but I just want to share my love with a lot of people, so that's why I'm actually putting out different giveaways. So yeah, check out my Instagram if you want to win makeup. So that is pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video and found this video helpful, do not forget to hit on the thumbs up button and also do subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on my social media. I'm Deepika Makeup everywhere. Stay tuned for more videos and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye.